this is Henri Chazaud with Keepsake Cuisine. Today we are going to make some chicken and biscuits using leftover rotisserie chicken. What we will be using is we have the leftover chicken. It's still on the bone. We have olive oil, flour, onion, celery, carrots, fresh peas, biscuits, and milk. First I'm going to peel the carrots, and then I'm going to add them to my pan and start cooking them. And I'm going to show you how to cut the carrots so they cook evenly. When you cut the carrot, you want to hold the knife on a 45-degree angle. And make sure you keep the knife up against the flat of your fingers, just like that. So I'm going to make the first cut, and the idea is that all the pieces are about the same size so they cook evenly. So the first cut, rotate the carrot towards me, rotate the carrot towards me, and you keep doing that. It doesn't have to be perfect. But if you have a tiny piece of carrot cooking and a big piece of carrot cooking, well, they're not going to be cooked evenly. A little French lesson for you today is that this is called carrot oblique. And you can see these are all about the same size. Okay, I'm going to do a second one. When you're using the knife also, you want to focus on what you're doing. If somebody calls you or distracts you, stop cutting, put the knife down, deal with it, and then come back to cutting. There's nothing worse than missing a finger. Okay, now I'm going to add some olive oil to the pan. I'm going to add my carrots to it. And I'm going to dice the celery. You want to try to have the celery all the same size also, so that cooks evenly. Okay, now we take an onion. So I cut the ends off the onion. The end that has the root, you don't want to take too much off because there's a little, once you cut that off, there's a little white kind of nougat there, and that actually holds the onion together while you're dicing it. Now, I'm going to slice the onion in half. And I'm going to slice it this way, from cut end to cut end. Don't cut it this way. So I sliced it in half, and you can see where that root end is there, and that's actually going to help hold this together. This onion I will put away, wrap it, and use it within a day. I'm going to make slices here. My knife is nice and sharp. A dull knife will actually do more damage if you cut yourself. So I did slices like that. Now I'm going to slice down. And remember, keep your fingers bent under so you're not cutting off your tips. Now I'm going to go crossways, and I don't need that whole onion. Now I'm going to throw the onion in the pan. I'm going to add a little more oil, and this is going to be the basis for our roux. So I put in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Whatever kind of oil you use is fine. Butter is okay. when you make a roux with flour, 4 ounces of flour is enough to thicken up a quart of liquid. So now we're going to make a roux. A roux is basically flour and fat. I'm using olive oil in the pan. You can use butter, you can use canola, vegetable oil. 4 ounces of flour is enough to thicken a quart of liquid. We're only going to use about a cup of liquid, so I'm going to use about 1/3 of a teaspoon. You can always add more, but if you put too much flour in and it thickens too much, you're going to have to add a lot of liquid to thin it down. So I'm going to add that flour there. And once you've added your flour, you want to let it cook out for about 15 minutes. It can be with the milk or without, but otherwise you'll have a starchy, pasty taste to it. I'm going to add just a little bit more because I don't think I put enough. So I used about half a tablespoon. Okay. I'm going to add peas. And these are fresh, frozen or fine. It's hard to find fresh peas sometimes, but so while that's cooking down, I'm going to add the milk to it now. I'm using whole milk, but low-fat milk is fine. You'll be getting plenty of fat from the roux that you made. So we're going to let that simmer a little bit. It's already starting to thicken. Once you've added the milk, it's going to be hard to add more flour. So what you can do is you can mix some flour with water and just make a paste if you need it thicker. You can also use cornstarch. The problem with cornstarch is that if you have leftovers and you cool it down and then reheat it, it's not going to be a good consistency. At least with this, everyone has flour, not everyone has cornstarch. So now I have my leftover chicken, and keep in mind most seniors don't eat much. So even though this is half of a chicken, it's still at least 2 meals. So I'm going to take the skin off. The skin is the least healthy part of the chicken. And I'm just going to cut this breast here. And if you don't have rotisserie chicken, you can still make this. You just buy a chicken breast. Okay. So I'm going to take half the breast and I'm going to cut it up. I'm going to take the skin off the chicken leg and also any tendons and gristle you want to get rid of. So it's best to pull this apart by hand so you can feel the bone and the cartilage. There's a lot of cartilage in the dark meat. So just break it up like that. Now I'm going to add this. And I'm going to go wash my hands. We're going to set this aside, put it back in the refrigerator, wrapped up. And this is ready to go. So I'm going to shut this off the stove. Now, I have small Pyrex dishes. If you don't have these, you can use the square Pyrex brownie pans. Those work fine. The nice thing about the square ones is that you get about 8 biscuits in a tube. We're only going to use 2 to make this. So I'm going to going to get rid of this cutting board. Just because I like a clean work area. I'm going to take my 2 dishes here and okay, so we have leftover, and that's okay because you can cool it down right away, put it in the refrigerator, wrap it. Now the fun part, opening the biscuits. Make sure these don't pop you in the eye when they open. These were waiting. They were waiting for me. So I'm going to stretch out the dough. Don't squeeze it too much, just stretch it out so it's about the big enough to cover the top of this. If you're going to use little Pyrex dishes like this, and you have the leftover biscuits, you might as well get a sheet tray out and bake off the rest of these. If you're using the square Pyrex pan, you'll end up using all these. What you do is stretch them out about that big, and you'll probably have a couple left over that you can cut up and use to fill the open spaces. So now I'm going to throw these in the oven. I turned on the oven about 10 minutes ago to 350 degrees, and I'm going to put these in the oven. And that'll take about 15 minutes to cook. So it's been about 15 minutes and I believe it is ready to take out of the oven. I'm going to use some tongs, and because it's going to be hot, I don't want to burn my fingers. And that is bubbling away there. If you're going to use these types of dishes, it might be easier to put it on a sheet tray, a little baking sheet, so it doesn't fall. It's easier to get in and out. This biscuit is nicely done. It's a little too hot to eat right now, but I'm going to do it anyway. If you were paying attention, you'll see that I didn't add any salt or pepper. Celery naturally has a lot of sodium in it, and a lot of seniors can't have too much salt, too much sodium. It counteracts the natural body functions. So you kind of have to, it's gonna vary from case to case. Some people might like salt, and you're not going to argue with a 80 or 90-year-old about having salt. And some people, because they've cut back on salt so much, they're very sensitive to salt. So even a small amount of salt, they'll think, oh, this has too much salt. So you have to get to learn the tastes of your clients. So this is chicken and biscuits, pretty easy. You can make this a day ahead and cook it the next day if you want, or make it when you have free time and there's nothing going on. But very easy, and it's a very easy comfort food. So that's how you make chicken and biscuits.